Speaking of simple organisms holding big secrets,
Yeah.
let's circle back to that classic chicken or egg question
Okay.
for a second. Does any of this research give us
Oh,
any actual clues about which came first?
well,
I mean, I know we're not talking about literal chickens and eggs here, but...
you're right. It doesn't solve the riddle definitively,
Okay.
but it does suggest that the ability to form embryos,
Right.
those fundamental units of complex life,
Right.
could be much older than chickens.
Yeah.
Or any animals, for that matter.
Okay.
It's like the groundwork.
Yeah.
The potential for that kind of development
Right.
was laid way back in deep time.
So in a way, this
Yeah.
research leans towards the egg coming first.
Potentially, yeah,
Not a chicken egg, of course,
right.
but the concept of an egg as this incredible package
Yeah,
of potential for complex life.
exactly.
That's amazing to consider.
It really is, and it highlights
Yeah.
this incredible interconnectedness of life.
Okay.
Even the most complex organisms
Right.
share deep evolutionary roots with
Yeah.
these single-celled creatures.
Wow. Okay, so get this.
Mm-hmm.
We always hear that single-celled organisms are like, well, simple, right?
Yeah,
But it turns out there's this organism
right.
called Chromosphaera perkinsii
Oh, wow.
that's making scientists rethink that whole idea.
It really is. It's shaking up
Yeah.
our understanding of early evolution.
So what's wild is that this tiny thing, like it's a single cell,
I know.
acts a lot like an animal embryo.
Yeah.
And we're not just talking about any animal embryo.
Right.
We're talking about embryos from billions of years ago.
Yeah, way before dinosaurs.
Way before dinosaurs existed.
Exactly. C. perkinsii belongs to a group
Okay.
called Ichthyosporeans, which are kind of like the distant cousins of animals.
Okay.
They branched off from our common ancestor over 1 billion years ago.
So any similarities they share could give us clues
Yeah,
about
Yeah.
what those super ancient ancestors were like.
precisely.
Whoa.
And here's the kicker.
Okay.
C. perkinsii
Yeah.
spends a good chunk of its life in a multicellular stage. Oh, wow.
Forming these little colonies that look a lot like embryos.
Hold on. So we're talking about a single-celled organism
Yeah.
forming a multicellular structure.
Exactly.
That's kind of like
It's kind of like
a bunch of individual people suddenly deciding to join hands and form a human chain, right?
That's a great analogy.
It really like that.
And these chains are organized too.
Uh-huh.
It's not just a random clump of cells.
Okay.
C. perkinsii forms distinct cell types
Wow.
within these colonies.
So this is giving us a window into how multicellular life might have first evolved.
Yeah, it really is.
That's huge.
It is.
Okay.
And the similarities don't stop there.
Okay.
The way C. perkinsii reproduces is fascinating.
Okay.
It goes through this process called polyntemy,
Okay.
where it basically divides itself rapidly into a bunch of daughter cells,
Okay.
all without getting any bigger.
Wait, that sounds familiar.
Yeah.
Doesn't that happen in animal embryos too?
You're absolutely right. It's like the early stages.
Yeah. Of embryonic development in animals.
Okay.
And it even forms this hollow ball of cells
Okay.
that resembles a blastula,
Yeah.
which is an early stage of an animal embryo.
So this tiny organism is basically doing a mini version of what happens
It is.
in complex animal development.
Uh-huh.
I'm starting to see why scientists are so excited about this.
Absolutely. But here's where things get even more interesting.
Oh, okay.
Scientists have been looking at the genes that C. perkinsii expresses
Mm-hmm.
during this whole process. And guess what they found?
Don't tell me they found genes that are similar to the ones involved in animal embryo development.
You got it.
Wow.
We're talking about genes that control cell adhesion,
Okay.
signaling between cells, even the genes that regulate how other genes are expressed, something we call transcriptional regulation.
So just to be clear, we're saying that this ancient
Yeah.
single-celled organism has some of the same genetic tools
Exactly.
that control how complex animal embryos develop today.
Exactly. And one really striking example is the brachyury gene.
All right.
It's crucial for a process called gastrulation in animals,
Mm-hmm.
where the embryo starts to fold in on itself
Wow.
and form the different layers that will eventually become organs and tissues.
Oh, wow.
And guess what?
What?
C. perkinsii has it too.
Okay, this is blowing my mind.
Yeah.
So are we saying this little C. perkinsii
Yeah.
is like a living fossil
Kinda, yeah.
showing us what the very early steps toward complex life
It seems that way.
might have looked like?
Yeah. And it challenges our traditional timeline of evolution.
Okay.
We used to think
Yeah.
the genetic groundwork for complex life
Right.
appeared much later.
Okay.
But C. perkinsii is pushing that back by 1 billion years.
That's a massive shift.
It is.
I'm trying to wrap my head around it.
Yeah.
It's like finding out.
It's like
Your family history goes back way further than you ever imagined.
That's a great way to put it.
Wow.
And it raises so many fascinating questions.
Like what?
Like, what does this mean for the origins of multicellularity itself?
Okay.
And even what it means to be an animal.
Wait.
If these building blocks were present so long ago, were there other lineages that almost became animals?
Interesting.
But went in different directions.
That's incredible to think about.
It is.
It's like the possibilities for life were even broader than we thought. But hold on. I remember reading something about convergent evolution.
Right.
Could that be playing a role here?
Yeah, potentially.
Maybe C. perkinsii just evolved these embryo-like traits completely separately from animals.
So convergent evolution is when two unrelated organisms develop similar traits because they're facing similar pressures in their environments.
So like even though sharks and dolphins look somewhat alike, one's a fish and the other's a mammal.
Exactly.
They evolved those streamlined bodies for swimming fast. But took very different paths to get there.
Yeah, exactly.
Would that been what happened with C. perkinsii?
Exactly. And there are some scientists who think that that could be the case here. For example, as far as we know, no other Ichthyosporeans develop in quite the same way as C. perkinsii.
So if this embryo-like development was something passed down from a very ancient ancestor, wouldn't you expect to see hints of it?
Right.
And their other relatives too?
That's the thinking.
Right.
The fact that C. perkinsii seems to be unique in its family tree does lend some support to the convergent evolution idea.
But what about those genetic similarities? Those shared genes involved in embryonic development seem pretty convincing.
You're right. The genetic evidence is compelling. And that's what makes this such a fascinating puzzle.
I know,
It's not a clear-cut answer.
Right. We need more research to definitively say whether this is convergent evolution or a shared ancestry situation.
That's what I love about science. It's not always black and white.
Exactly.
It's about weighing the evidence, considering different possibilities, and getting closer to the truth, even if it's messy.
Absolutely.
So let's say for a moment that C. perkinsii really did inherit this embryo-like development.
Okay.
From that super ancient ancestor. What would that mean for how we visualize the whole tree of life?
It would mean some branches we thought were separate might actually be more intertwined than we realize. The lines between simple and complex organisms could become even blurrier.
Wow.
It's like discovering a hidden bridge connecting two continents we thought were always apart.
That's a great visual.
Thanks.
So to sum up what we've learned about C. perkinsii so far, we have this single-celled organism
that acts like an animal embryo.
Yeah.
Potentially changing our timeline.
Yeah.
Of when embryonic development evolved by over 1 billion years.
It's huge.
And on top of that, we're not even sure if it's a case of convergent evolution or shared ancestry.
It's crazy.
This one little organism is really shaking things up.
It absolutely is. And it highlights how a single discovery can open up a whole new world of possibilities.
I know.
Completely change our understanding of how life evolved on our planet.
It's almost poetic in a way.
It is.
This tiny organism living in the mud is forcing us to rethink some of the biggest questions about the history of life on Earth.
It's amazing.
It really makes you wonder what other secrets are out there.
Yeah.
Just waiting to be discovered.
Absolutely.
Doesn't it?
It does.
Speaking of simple organisms holding big secrets, let's circle back to that classic chicken or egg question for a second. Does any of this research give us any actual clues about which came first?
Well,
I mean, I know we're not talking about literal chickens and eggs here, but...
You're right. It doesn't solve the riddle definitively.
Okay.
But it does suggest that the ability to form embryos, those fundamental units of complex life, could be much older than chickens.
Yeah.
Or any animals, for that matter.
Okay.
It's like the groundwork, the potential for that kind of development was laid way back in deep time.
So in a way, this research leans towards the egg coming first.
Potentially, yeah.
Not a chicken egg, of course.
Right.
But the concept of an egg as this incredible package of potential for complex life.
Exactly.
That's amazing to consider.
It really is, and it highlights this incredible interconnectedness of life.
Okay.
Even the most complex organisms share deep evolutionary roots with these single-celled creatures.
Wow.
We're all part of this grand unfolding story.
I have a feeling we'll be hearing a lot more about perkinsii in the years to come.
Yeah.
It feels like we're just scratching the surface
Definitely.
of what it can teach us about the evolution of life.
Yeah, it's like we've opened this door to a whole new room in the house of life.
It is.
And who knows what else we might find in there.
That's the beauty of scientific discovery. perkinsii is just one example.
Right.
It opens up so many avenues for future research.
Like what specifically?
Wow.
What are scientists going to be looking at next?
Well, for one, they'll be searching for more organisms, like perkinsii.
Okay.
Are there other single-celled creatures out there that blur the lines between what we thought were clear categories?
So it's possible there are other missing links out there.
Potentially.
That could give us even more clues about early evolution.
Absolutely. And they'll be digging deeper into the genetics of perkinsii, understanding exactly how those shared genes work.
Okay. How they're regulated could give us a much clearer picture of the evolutionary relationship between single-celled organisms and multicellular animals.
It's like we're piecing together this giant jigsaw puzzle.
It is.
And perkinsii just gave us a whole bunch of new pieces.
Exactly. And who knows? Maybe those new pieces will lead us to completely rethink how the puzzle fits together.
This whole deep dive has really changed my perspective.
I'm glad.
I'm looking at the world a little differently now.
Yeah.
Realizing that even the smallest, seemingly simplest organisms can hold these incredible secrets. About the history of life.
I think that's a wonderful takeaway.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that we should never underestimate the power of exploration and discovery, even in the most unexpected places.
And for our listeners out there, the next time you see something that you might think of as simple or primitive, remember it could be holding the key to unlocking some of the biggest mysteries of life on Earth.
Exactly. Each organism has a story to tell.
Wow.
And those stories can help us understand the grand narrative of evolution.
Right.
This amazing journey that connects us all.
I think that's a perfect note to end on.
It is.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
Of course.
Into the world of perkinsii.
Yeah.
And the origins of complex life. It's been an incredible journey.
It's been my pleasure. Keep exploring.
Yeah.
Keep asking questions and never stop being curious about the world around you.
And who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe you'll be the one to make the next big discovery.
You never know.
Until next time, keep diving deep